Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of our project analysis series. Today is just me, myself and I because Sean is busy with some other commitments. But not to worry, we will still go through everything we need to know in detail about Hudson Place. We just came out of a very exciting weekend. We had Bella Bay and Tengah Residences as well as Reval EC's second timer booking, all happening on Saturday itself, and it was a very crazy weekend. So then the question is, what's next, right? So we have this exciting project coming up in the One North area called Hudson Place at Media Circle. So if you have heard of Bloomsbury, which is a project that launched last year in April in the same area, this Hudson Place is just one road away from it. Alright, so without further ado, let's go into it. So in terms of content, we are going to go through the project specifics, of course, and we will address a few common concerns. This project is pretty far from MRT, and our neighbor Bloomsbury, there's still some balance units. So what does it mean, right? Lastly, of course, our usual sweet spot strategy analysis before we head into the unit type analysis and conclusion. Now, heading into project specifics, this project, Hudson Place, is located at Media Circle. Downstairs, there's 400 square meters of commercial space, so there's going to be some shops that is going to be managed directly by Qingjian themselves. And there's going to be 327 units across two blocks, blocks 18 and 20. So block 18 is going to be 15 stories high, and block 20 is going to be at 23 stories high. Later, we will have a look at the site plan. It's 99-year leasehold and is expected to TOP Q3 in 2029. So the area of One North is actually going to be quite a car-light area, which is why you see the car park lots. There's only going to have 134 car park lots, which is slightly less than half of the number of units. Quite a number of bicycle lots, as you know, they do encourage more green and sustainable transport means here. There's going to be lots of, cyclist-friendly, the One North Park connector and things like that. Alright, and this project is developed by Qingjian in partnership with 4C, CYZ Land and Jian'an Capital. So Qingjian and 4C, I think, is no stranger to us. Qingjian has done quite a number of projects, including the very renowned Jadescape, Costa Cabana, Tenet, Altura, and a series of ECs, which means that they are very experienced in creating very family-friendly, livable layouts. And 4C, of course, you have a Hillock Green, which is also a very good project over at Lentor area. So Qingjian and 4C has actually collaborated on a number of projects here in the One North or Dover area. They started with Bloomsbury, now we have Hudson Place, and upcoming they have also needed a new piece of land very recently at Dover Drive, which is quite close to the Dover MRT, part of the Dover Medway transformation in future. So they are really building up their presence in this area. Okay, in terms of past project performances, we can see that Jadescape, River Isle, and Inns Residences are some of the very notable Qingjian projects that are there in the resale market today. Okay, so in terms of location, where exactly is Hudson Place? It's kind of in the middle of everything at the cross junction of One North, Kent Ridge, Queensway, Stirling and Tanglin Halt. It's kind of in the middle of everything. On the weekends, it's very convenient and easy for you to head down to Queenstown or the Dempsey area for weekend recreation or for work, right? The One North Pristine, which is populated with so many big companies in tech and media. So if we were to zoom into this area and try to see where are the other residential properties, there is not much that is very close to us. Of course, we are here, Hudson Place, and then right across we have Bloomsbury. And further down here, we have Linden Woods, which is closer to Kent Ridge MRT. One North Residences, which is over here, closer to One North MRT. Then the rest of the private residential properties are, more closer towards the Queensway area or closer to Rochester, which is between One North and Buona Vista already. Alright, so you can imagine the people that are working in this area where we call the Silicon Valley of Singapore. Their options are not that much if they want to look at maybe the newer properties, because One North Residences is TOP in 2009. By the time Hudson Place and Bloomsbury TOP, right, this is already like 20 years old. And of course, you have One North Eden that is TOP in 2024, is somewhere here as well. But there's not much units, there's only 165 units. Okay? So in terms of site plan, you can see that even though there's just two blocks, right, it's actually full condo facilities. You have a 50-meter slab pool as well as a full-size tennis court, another spa and wellness pool right here. And there's also lots of spaces catered for communal activities. Over here is where the commercial shops are going to be at. There's more public area, chilling area on the level 2. And here is where the children playground will be. So in future, there will also be a covered walkway across to Bloomsbury, where Bloomsbury also have their own set of shops as well. This direction is towards Bloomsbury, and this direction is towards Infinite Studio, which is a commercial building next door. So if we were to zoom out, these stacks over here, right, you can see that even though they're external facing towards the Bloomsbury side, they actually do not look into the other Bloomsbury block. So they have done this layout very well to deconflict the views. And further beyond here, right, is actually the Wessex Estate, where it's very low rise and lots of nature and greenery. So this view is going to be pretty good. Otherwise, the other 2 stacks here will be internal facing towards the pool area. And then these stacks right here, they are going to face outwards towards Infinite Studio. So in terms of height clearance, we have checked above level 13, you should be able to clear Infinite Studios, 25 meters to each other. If we were to rank in terms of view, of course, these stacks, they are going to have the best views, followed by your internal facing, and then followed by this side. So moving on to the key features of the project, firstly, of course, is the fact that Hudson Place is located within the One North Hub, which is the heart of technology, media and research, innovation. So the history of One North District started from Biopolis, where you have the life sciences and the biomed companies coming in, bringing lots of science and technology to this place. And then Fusionopolis, which is where you have lots of infocom, media, science and engineering. Now we have this launch pad area here, which is an environment for startups and incubators. Lots of exciting things happening here. And the last part to be developed is actually Media Police for infocom technology. And Hudson Place is in the heart of it. And last but not least, you also see this One North Park, which runs across the entire estate. Okay, really living up to the idea and vision of this place to be a live, play and learn environment. So the total workforce in this area is estimated to be about 50,000 working professionals, which is a lot. And as we have seen earlier, there's just not that much residential properties to cater to the living part of it. So for such a big city that we call the Silicon Valley of Singapore, you can see that government has also put in measures and are planning to bring in more residential properties to this area. So amongst all the places in Singapore that government has actually picked out for residential expansion plans, right? You can see that Dover Medway is really one of them, all right, which is over here and here, right? Media Police, where we are at. So this is a growing residential township, and we do expect more people to come and live and work here. Which brings me to the next point, right? This area is really going to be a work, live, play and learn environment. So within walking distance or cycling distance, you will have your very hippie and popular cafes and restaurants like Under the Linden, Timber Plus, and you also have the One North Park and the future rail corridor that is really going to link you from the Queenstown Estate further down to the west side of Singapore. And you are also pretty near to NUS for higher education and Tanglin Trust School, which is an international school walking distance from us. So these are the artist's impressions of how the development is going to look like. It's really giving that city fringe lux. So you can see that over here, level 1 is the commercial space. Then you also have a lot of open seating area for you to chill. This courtyard garden is really so beautiful with all the fairy lights. And it feels like you can even host a wedding dinner here. And you know, from the interior of your home, this is like just such a nice setup to chill after a long day of work. So it really brings out that luxe yet chill feeling. Just something you want to go home to after a long day of work. I think that is a really nice mix into the hustle and bustle of this working district. So coming on to the unit mix, there's a total of 327 units, and we can see that 56% is actually the 2-bedder and 2+ study, the smaller layout, and then 44% is the 3 and 4 bedders. So we can see that the developer has actually really catered a bigger proportion towards the smaller bedroom types, which is also in line for the vision over here, right? Because we know that a lot of people are going to be working here, which will translate to pretty high rental demand, right? Which is why developer has done this kind of unit mix. But later on, we will also see that the 3 and 4 bedders are also very livable layouts as well. Okay, this is the unit distribution. Pretty straightforward. Every stack is one layout, and you just have some of the top levels, few units combined together for the penthouse. There's going to be 5 units of the penthouses. And level 1 is going to be the public areas, followed by basement, your car park. Alright, so now we are done with the introduction of the project. We come to the second portion of this video, which is addressing the common questions or concerns about the potential of this project. So the first and most important concern is definitely the fact that Hudson Place is just not that near the MRT. It is a 8 minutes drive or a 20 minutes walk, which is quite far. So there's lots of concern in terms of will it do well. And secondly is our neighbor Bloomsbury is still not sold out yet. There is still balance unit. Now, should we be concerned? Because if the area and the project is so good, right, it should already be sold out. We will also be addressing that. And thirdly, where is the sweet spot to look at for this project? Alright, so first question, it is not near the MRT at all. Is it still worth looking at? Because of the nature of this project, right, it's a bit more investor and rental driven. So to address this question, we should really deep dive into asking whether the rental demand and price appreciation, whether it will hold up or not. So to break that down, we can also look at a similar case study which we will be sharing. So we know that Hudson Place is going to TOP in 2029, and if you were to look at what other options do people have around here if they want to live close to the workplace of the One North district, what are their other options? There is a development that is much closer to the One North MRT, just minutes walk, called One North Residences, but it is actually much older, TOP in 2009. There's an age gap of 20 years, right? So the question is whether Hudson Place, which is much newer but further away from the MRT, whether it has the potential to perform better than that of One North, which is closer to the MRT but older. Okay, and we'll break that down using a case study over here, which is closer to the Red Hill area, not too far away from us at One North, where we have an example of Tanglin Regency, which has TOP in 1998, very close to MRT, walking distance as well, as compared to Principal Garden, which is a much newer development, TOP in 2019. So that's again an age gap of about 21 years, right? And it's much further away from the MRT. It's also about 15-20 minutes walk. So let's see how the performance of these two developments compare. So firstly, we are interested in the rental demand, right? So if we were to look at Tanglin Regency, the three-bedder rental average commanding now is about 5.7 thousand. And for two-bedder is about 4,000. Now, coming to Principal Garden, which is newer but further, for a 3-bedroom, it is commanding an average of 7.2 thousand, which is quite a fair bit higher than that of Tanglin Regency. So even from a PSF perspective, right, because the sizes might be different, it is at $6.65, which is 40% higher than that at Tanglin Regency for the 3-bedder. And for the 2-bedders, it's also $6, which is higher than that of the 2-bedders at Tanglin Regency. So what we can see here is that even though Principal Gardens is further away from the MRT, it doesn't mean that the rental demand or the commanding price will be weaker than that of Tanglin Regency, which is near to the MRT. So now let's look at the price appreciation starting from the 2-bedroom. Of course, there's an age gap of 20 years, right? But at launch in 2015, the price gap between Principal Gardens and Tanglin Regency was about 25%. Fast forward today, the gap has increased to 30%, which means that the 2-bedrooms here at Principal Gardens has actually appreciated more than that of Tanglin Regency, 37% compared to 31%. For the 3-bedrooms, the disparity is even larger. We can see that at launch day, the price gap is about 26%, and fast forward today, the price gap is at 41%. Principal Gardens has appreciated as much as 50%, which is much more than that of Tanglin Regency at 33%. So regardless of the bedroom type, right, we can see that the development that is newer and further away from the MRT has commanded as strong an appreciation, if not more, than that of the development that is much closer to the MRT but older. So the conclusion that we can draw from this is really that proximity to MRT is not the only determinant of whether a project will do well, both in terms of rental and price appreciation. There could be other factors, things like the layout, the facilities, how it feels when you are there. There is benefits of being the newer development. Alright, now coming to the second question is, our neighbor Bloomsbury is still not sold out yet. So should we be concerned about the potential of Hudson Place, which is just right next door, right? To break down this question, let us look at what exactly are the balance units here and what unit type we are looking to purchase. So if we were to zoom into the balance unit at Bloomsbury, there's 56 units remaining, of which 45 is actually the larger format, 3, 4 and 5 bedders. A lot of it is actually the bigger 4 bedders. So the question now is, why is it that the bigger units are taking longer to sell, and whether it is a concern? If we were to actually look at the behavior of some other projects in regards to this, there's actually a general trend for the bigger unit types to move closer to TOP. Example 1, Tembusu Grand, which TOP in December 2025. You can see that the months leading up to the TOP, what are the unit types that are moving? They are the 5 bidders. Similarly to Grand Diamond, going to TOP late this year or next year. Early this year, let's see. The unit types that are moving, mostly 4 and 5 bidder as well. So how do we explain this behavior? When we look at the bigger unit types, 4 and 5 bidders, mostly they are for families' own stay. So we can imagine that it's quite a hassle for a family to buy like a new launch at launch day and having to sell their current place, rent somewhere before moving in 4 to 5 years later when the project is done. What would make more sense for them is actually to wait until a project is close to its TOP, then purchase it, and the timeline will fit better so they can just move from their current place to the new place without much hassle. So if we were to bring this back to what we are seeing at Bloomsbury, the fact that the remaining units are mostly the 4 and 5 bidders, we don't think that it is concern over whether there is any intrinsic problems with its potential or not. It's not really that, right? It's just a matter of the bigger units should technically move more when it's closer to TOP. So now the question is, what kind of unit types you are looking at? If your intention or your budget is for a 2 or 3 bidders, of course you can look at Hudson Place because there's really not much options left at Bloomsbury. But if you are somebody looking for 4 to 5 bidder, then you will have an option of choosing between Hudson Place and Bloomsbury residences. So then it boils down to your objective of the purchase, whether you are purchasing for own stay or investment. If you are looking at own stay, of course Bloomsbury is going to TOP much earlier because we are aware that the foundation stage has been caught last year already. In terms of timeline, it might make more sense for you to go for Bloomsbury so that you don't have to wait so long before moving in. But from an investment perspective, if your intention is to buy and then rent out, then going for Hudson Place might work out better for you in terms of your cash flow and investment timeline. Because in the first 4 years, while it built, you can leverage on a progressive payment scheme, you don't have to pay, your property tax, your MCST fee, and you don't have to, for a tenant so early to, cover a monthly mortgage. So between the two projects at this point, it will depend on which unit type you are looking at and your intention of the purchase. Now coming on to the sweet spot analysis for the project, of course our usual 2 steps, right? Identifying what is the USP of the project as well as how the developer's pricing strategy work out to be. So what is the USP of Hudson Place? I would say that it is the strong rental demand or rental yield because of its location being in the heart of Mediapolis, having such close proximity to an extremely large workforce. What will affect this is definitely firstly your entry price and factors affecting rental price. So coming into developers' pricing strategy, right here we actually have the starting prices of each unit type here at Hudson Place. We can actually see that there is unit mix premium over here, meaning that the bigger layouts have a higher PSF than that of the smaller layout. This is what we call the unit mix premiums. Okay, this is very interesting because if you were to look at the performance of the greater One North area, how the rental and pricing behavior is like, you can see that the smaller bedroom type, 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom, they are actually fetching a higher PSF price than the 3 and 4 bedrooms here. Okay, which translates into a higher rental yield for the smaller bedroom types than the bigger bedroom types. So you can see that this actually runs a bit contrary to how developers has decided to price their units here at Hudson Place, meaning that it is actually a very, very strong and very attractive sweet spot to enter into the smaller bedroom type, okay, because your entry price is actually going to be lower, which helps, right? It helps with your rental yield. So we know that there is going to be unit type premium. In terms of view premium, we are not sure, but what we do know is that the best view, of course, is going to come from these stacks over here, facing the Bloomsbury and the Wessex Estate side, followed by the pool view, followed by this side, which is to Infinite Studios. So depending on how developers price it, right, if there is going to be a very high premium over here for the stacks that are facing outwards, then maybe you do not need to pick such a good view unit. Maybe you can pick the inward facing one or even the Infinite Studio facing one, depending on how big the price gap is. Because at the end of the day, right, if you're a tenant trying to look for a place to live, just to be close to your workplace, how much more would you be willing to pay for a better view? It might not be so much more that it actually justifies a higher entry price for you. And lastly, of course, is going to be your per floor jump. It might vary for different stacks. If the per floor jump is very aggressive, then you don't need to go so high floor. If it's okay, not that aggressive, then depending on which unit type and which stack you are going for, try and figure out the sweet spot right there. So all in all, especially if you are trying to look from an investment objective, right, where the sweet spot lies, I would say, is in your smaller unit types, maybe your 2 bedrooms. View-wise, don't need to be so good. So whether it is maybe your inward facing or the stacks that are facing the infinite studio is also okay. And then in terms of per floor jump, if the per floor jump premium is not so high, you can go for a higher stack, a higher unit. But if it's very aggressive, then same thing, going on a lower stack will be fine as well, because again, a higher floor might not command that much more rental for you to help improve your rental yield. So all in all, it's a question of how do we maximize your rental yield over here, being the USP of this project. So some key details over here. Preview starts 1st May, which is very soon already, and the booking day is 16 May. So feel free to scan our QR code, get in touch with us if you need more information or if you wish to book a viewing slot. Alright, now we come to the last part of unit type analysis. Starting with the 2 bedroom, there are 4 layouts for the 2 bed 2 bath and 2 layouts for 2 plus study. Starting with the 2 bed 2 bath, there are 4 layouts, okay, and they are actually pretty much very similar. Coming in, you have a tuck-away kitchen over here and a very standard dumbbell layout where you have bedrooms on both sides of the living room, 1 ensuite bathroom and 1 Jack and Jill bathroom. So this is really a very typical 2-bed 2-bath layout, right? And all these 4 layouts, A, B, C, and D, really they are not that much different. The size is all the same as 646 square feet. The difference is just really where is it in the development. So you have some that is facing inwards to the pool, some that is facing outwards. Okay, same here. Some stacks facing inside and some stacks facing outside. So it really boils down to pricing. Which stack makes most sense in terms of your entry price. Alright, so coming to the 2-bed plus study, there's 2 layouts. First one, B2, it is 689 square feet. That is just 1 stack. So coming in, you actually have a very wide walkway because they have placed the study over here. And of course, you have a tuck-away kitchen and the standard dumbbell layout. Alright, so for this study, you can choose to erect some walls if you wish, or some partition. Maybe if you want to have a storeroom area or you want to make it a study, you can do that. Or if not, you can just leave it open and you will make your entire house feel more spacious for a 2-bedroom. Okay, so this stack is actually facing this way. You have a pool view and also you are unblocked towards Bloomsbury and further down to the Wessex Estate. So for this stack right here is a question of how much premium is loaded in the view, because it's going to have quite a good view as well. If it's too expensive, you might want to consider whether it is going to be that helpful to your rental yield or not. But if you are buying for own stay, this is a great layout for 2-bed 2-bath. Okay, then the next 2 plus study, B3, is also at 689 square feet. There are 3 stacks. 1 stack is facing inwards and 2 stacks is facing outwards towards the Bloomsbury side. So coming in, you have your small enclosed kitchen. It is smaller. And then on the left side, you have your study space, which links into the common bedroom via your common toilet. There's a Jack and Jill access. So what you can do is actually you can make this entire area here into a very big common room space for your own living, right? And then on the other side is your master bedroom and with an ensuite bathroom. So this is also the show flat unit type. So in terms of the 2-bedders, I would say that they're actually all very well designed. Why? Because at least they still have an enclosed kitchen, even for a 2-bed 2-bath. And there's no 2-bed 1-bath here. So they are all actually very livable layouts. Even a small family with 1 or 2 children, young children, can actually live very well here. It all boils down to a question of pricing and how the premiums are loaded to make your decision. Alright? Now we come to the 3-bedroom. There's a few layouts. The first one is the compact layout 3-bed 2-bath, followed by 2 options of 3-bed plus household shelter and 1 layout which has household shelter and study. So this is the 3 compact layout. Coming in, you have a little foyer space, followed by a nicely separated dining and living area, then your balcony. You have a small tuck-away kitchen and a traditional layout of 3 bedrooms on one side, 1 ensuite toilet and 1 common bathroom. You also have a mini study alcove here, which will help to enhance the spaciousness of this area and your corridor space, which I think is a really great idea. I actually really like this layout, 893 square feet, because it is at a corner stack, meaning you have windows in your kitchen and both bathrooms. So it's a very livable layout for a 3 compact. It's not often that we see windows in your kitchen and bathrooms for a 3 compact layout. So I think they have done this really well. Whether it is for own stay or investment, if your preference is for a 3-bedder, I think this is good enough. There's just one stack and it's facing outwards towards the Infinite Studio. So it might be quite a sweet spot entry as well if there's view premium, right? Now coming to the 3-bed plus household shelter, this is at C2 1012 square feet. Coming in just a little foyer area, and then you have quite a big kitchen over here, wet kitchen, yard, WC and household shelter. And then further coming in, you have a dry kitchen area followed by your separated dining and living. Then again, your 3 bedrooms, one ensuite master bathroom and your common toilet. Again, you have this study alcove over here, which will help to enhance the corridor space. So this one is facing outwards towards the Infinite Studio building. Then the slightly bigger layout here, C3 at 1023 square feet, you have a slightly longer foyer area. Okay, and then you have the same layout for the kitchen, WC and household shelter. Okay, what is different here is that actually the dry kitchen wall here can be hacked down, and if you do that, right, you will have a much nicer, spacious feeling when you come into the house, and you can see directly your separated dining and living area. So it will give a more open and grand vibes. Okay, rest of it is the same. So this one is facing inwards here towards the entrance and the tennis court. Coming to the last 3-bedroom unit type, which is with household shelter and study. This is 1055 square feet. Coming in, you have a little foyer area and then your same thing, right? Wet kitchen, household shelter and WC. This wall over here is also hackable for the dry kitchen, and then you have your dining and living area. The only difference is that you have a study area over here with windows on both sides of the study, so it will be a quite a bright study, which is very good because usually if a study area has no window, right, it will just be quite dark. Even if you install a light, it will be like quite a secluded area. This is also the show flat unit type and is facing outwards towards the Bloomsbury side, where you will have really good views, the unblocked views towards the West Estate. So between the 3-bedroom layouts, right, personally I really feel that the 3 compact is good enough. But if you are a big family looking for own stay, then it might make sense for you to go for the ones with household shelter and study. Now we come to the final 4-bedroom layouts. We have 2 that is 4-bed 2-bath and 2 that is 4-bed plus flexi. Okay, so 4-bed 2-bath, there's 2 stacks. 1152 square feet. Actually, they are just mirror image of each other. The layout is very similar to the 3 plus household shelter. Coming in, you have your wet kitchen, household shelter, yard, and dry kitchen, dining, living, 3 bedrooms on one side and 1 bedroom on the other side. So for both layouts, right, you will have your junior master bedroom, right, with a Jack and Jill access toilet, and your window will be facing the other side of the building. So meaning balcony is facing, for example, this, right, balcony is facing the pool, but this other bedroom for the window will be facing the other stack right here. Okay, same goes for the D1B. Both are facing towards the pool side. Okay, and finally, we have the 4-bed plus flexi. These are 1432 square feet, which is the largest layout for 4-bedroom here. In terms of layout, they are the same. It's just different facing, okay? So coming in, you will have household shelter on one side, and then you will have your tuck-away kitchen, the wet kitchen, yard, WC. Okay, further down, coming in, you then have your dry kitchen area, and then a very nice landscape living for a dining area that can sit up to 8 or 10 packs. Your living area, and the flexi area is right here with walls that you can actually knock down. So if you do not wish to partition the wall like this, right, you can just knock it down and really have a very big and nice living room with a long balcony. And then for the rest of the layout is pretty similar to the other 4-bedroom. 3 bedroom on one side, 1 bedroom on the other side. Over here you have a walk-in wardrobe for the master bedroom with ensuite bath, and the junior master will have a Jack and Jill toilet access. Again, the window is going to be facing the other block for one of the bedrooms. So these 2 stacks, they are actually right here, stack 17 and stack 14. The balcony and 3 bedrooms will be facing one side, whether it is towards the pool or whether it is outwards towards the Bloomsbury area, then the junior master facing inwards like this. And so I've come to the end of all the analysis. Of course, there are going to be 5 penthouse units where the layout is not shown here. But of course, if you're interested, you can get in touch with us and we can send you the details. So again, the preview starts from 1st May and booking day is on 16 May. If you're interested, please get in touch with us and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.